Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. More than 400 fast food workers and their supporters have been arrested in a national day of action for a $15 an hour minimum wage. Workers staged a one-day strike in 150 cities across the United States Thursday, from Las Vegas to Chicago and Detroit to Little Rock, Arkansas, and here in New York City.
We're gaining awareness and showing people in Albany that we deserve 15 in the union, and that we're angry about the minimum wage. We don't believe in the minimum wage. We believe in a living wage.
We're asking and we're demanding for 15. We're not asking for so much. We're just asking for about so much so we can be able to live and survive in New York.
Those arrested engaged in nonviolent civil disobedience by blocking streets during rush hour. In addition to a living wage, workers are also seeking the right to unionize and improve workplace conditions, including consistent working hours. We'll have more on the fast food workers' strike later in the broadcast. A federal judge has ruled the oil giant BP was grossly negligent in the lead-up to the 2010 Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, the worst in U.S. history. The ruling could force BP to pay up to $18 billion in extra additional fines. Attorney General Eric Holder praised the ruling in Washington.
We are pleased that the district court in New Orleans has found that the largest oil spill in United States history was caused by BP's gross negligence and willful misconduct. The court's findings will ensure that the company is held fully accountable for its recklessness.
The ruling also found BP subcontractors Transocean and Halliburton negligent in the accident. BP says it'll immediately appeal. We'll have more on this story later in the broadcast. The Justice Department has formally announced a civil rights probe of the police department in Ferguson, Missouri, where the unarmed African-American teenager Michael Brown was killed last month. The announcement follows weeks of protests sparked by Brown's death that brought to light allegations of racial profiling and other police abuses against African-American residents. On Thursday, Attorney General Eric Holder said his recent visit to Ferguson helped inform the investigation's scope.
I heard from them directly about the deep mistrust that has taken hold between law enforcement officials and members of that community. In meetings, as well as in listening sessions, as well as informal conversations, people consistently express concerns stemming from specific alleged incidents, from general policing practices, and from the lack of diversity on the Ferguson police force. In Ferguson, our investigation will assess the police department's use of force, including deadly force. It will analyze stops, searches, and arrests, and it will examine the treatment of individuals detained at Ferguson's city jail, in addition to other potentially discriminatory policing techniques and tactics that have been brought to light.
The investigation, separate from another civil rights investigation specifically into Brown's killing at the hands of Ferguson officer Darren Wilson. The probe could expand to other areas surrounding Ferguson and Missouri. A federal appeals court has overturned marriage equality bans in Wisconsin and Indiana, the latest in a series of rulings since the Supreme Court struck down the Defense of Marriage Act last year. One judge on the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals said marriage equality bans are based on, quote, hate and savage discrimination against LGBT people. The rulings bring the number of states upholding marriage equality to 21. In a rare victory for opponents of marriage equality, a separate court upheld Louisiana's LGBT marriage ban earlier this week. The Ukrainian government and pro-Russian rebels are reportedly set to sign a ceasefire today aimed at ending over 6 months of fighting that's killed at least 2,600 people and displaced over 1 million. The deal is expected this morning in the Belarusian capital of Minsk as President Obama and European leaders meet in Wales for a major NATO summit. We'll have more on Ukraine after headlines with Professor Stephen Cohen. In Virginia, former Republican Governor Bob McDonnell and his wife have been found guilty of multiple corruption charges for accepting gifts from a prominent donor. The McDonnells received more than $140,000 from Star Scientific CEO Johnny Williams. Federal prosecutors contend McDonnell accepted the money in exchange for promoting Star Scientific's products and providing other favors. McDonnell was offered a plea bargain earlier this year, but opted instead to go to trial. His defense strategy largely entailed placing the blame on his wife, Maureen, who, as a non-public official, could not have been convicted of corruption charges on her own. McDonnell's attorneys argued the couple were too estranged to have conspired in a criminal manner. But jurors found McDonnell guilty of all the corruption charges against him. After the verdict was announced, Virginia District Attorney Dana Boente said McDonnell had violated the public trust.
This is a difficult and disappointing day for the Commonwealth and its citizens. Public service frequently requires sacrifice and almost always requires financial sacrifice. When public officials turn to financial gain in exchange for official acts, we have little choice but to prosecute the case.
Former Governor McDonnell is the first Virginia governor in history to be charged with a crime. His attorneys have vowed an appeal. Sentencing is scheduled for January 6th. Bob McDonnell's conviction comes days after another Republican-linked corruption case came to a close. Former Iowa State Senator Kent Sorensen has pleaded guilty to accepting a bribe for defecting from one presidential campaign to another right before Iowa's 2012 Republican caucuses. Sorensen accepted $73,000 to jump from Michelle Bachmann's team over to rival candidate Ron Paul's. Sorensen now faces up to 25 years behind bars. His guilty plea has had a domino effect in Kentucky, where Senator Mitch McConnell's campaign manager, Jesse Benton, has resigned. Benton ran Paul's campaign at the time of Sorensen's bribe. Former House Majority Leader Eric Cantor has landed a new job on Wall Street just months after a stunning primary loss. Cantor became the first House Majority Leader to ever lose a primary when he fell to Tea Party challenger David Brat. Brat ran on a staunch anti-immigrant platform, but some analysts say Cantor was done in by a voter backlash against his insider politics and close Wall Street ties. This week, the Wall Street investment bank Moelis & Company announced Cantor will serve as the company's vice chair and managing director for a base pay of $400,000 a year and a bonus of over $1 million in stock and cash. Newly disclosed emails show a national security reporter with the Los Angeles Times pre-cleared his stories with the CIA and promised the agency positive coverage. According to The Intercept, Ken Dilanian had a closely collaborative relationship with the CIA that saw him send drafts of entire news stories prior to publication. In one case, he told a CIA press officer a story he was working on about congressional oversight of drone strikes, quote, can present a good opportunity for you guys in reassuring to the public. In another exchange, Dilanian sent over an unpublished story in full with the subject header, "Does this look better?" The CIA's response appears to have led to major changes in at least one case. A spokesperson for Tribune newspapers says he appears to have violated company rules barring sharing of stories prior to publication. Now a reporter for the Associated Press, Dilanian declined comment for The Intercept's story. And also in headlines today, Bahrain has detained the leading human rights activist, Mariam Akhawaja, after she tried to enter the country. Akhawaja says customs officials told her she no longer holds citizenship. She was trying to visit her ailing father, Abdul Hadi, who remains on a hunger strike in prison. Bahrain is a key U.S. government ally hosting the Navy's Fifth Fleet. And the comedian Joan Rivers has died at the age of 81. Rivers passed away Thursday, days after going into cardiac arrest during an outpatient procedure. New York authorities are now investigating the clinic, Yorkville Endoscopy, where she was undergoing the operation, but no wrongdoing is suspected. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world.
Juan, before we go on to our first story,